Terry Bradshaw, quarterback, Pittsburgh Steelers.
It's 7:15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
This is baseball, Major League Baseball. And this is
ABC's Monday Night Baseball, live from Fenway Park in Boston, Massachusetts.
Looking. He's under the gun. He's caught. He throws. It is.
The agony of defeat.
Frazier! Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier!
It's the second week of September and the 36th episode of the Past Star Prime podcast. Thanks for joining us. I'm Scott, joined by Bill and by Mark, each and every week as we look back at the world of sports from 50 years ago today. The September 9th issue of Sports Illustrated is our focus. Archie Griffin on the cover. 50 years later, still the only person ever to win the Heisman Trophy twice. What an incredible feat by one of college football's all-time greats. Once again, I was 6 years old. Don't remember it. Bill, do you remember it?
No. I heard about it, but I was...
old man Mark remembers.
Mark probably was at
By
his
the way,
games.
I want to commend you that you're not using our last names now,
Yes.
so that way you don't blow
Yep,
up. Okay?
Yep.
But yeah, I do
Thanks,
remember.
Mr. Mahoney.
And I remember about
That's
Archie
Mark.
Griffin is that in '72 they changed the rules so that freshmen can now be eligible to play. So he had 4 bites at the apple, which made him. I think he had 4 1,000-yard seasons. He was, when he first came up as a freshman, they said this is the guy, and he sure was.
Collegiately speaking, I mean,
Yes.
he's as good as... I don't know if anyone had a better college career, I mean, like you said. 2 Heisman trophies. When you win it the first time, that means the second time everyone's looking at you. Your focus is on you, and he's still... Scorecard. Superstitious, you bet. As quietly as possible and without ceremony, the Atlanta Falcons retired jersey number 76. If you do not recall the fabulous feats of number 76, there's a reason, explains equipment manager Whitey Zimmerman. We had 4 players who tore up their knees wearing that number, so we retired it. Nobody's wearing number 76 for the Falcons. That lasted until 1985, I think it was, when they finally reissued old number 76.
And you know who got it?
Yeah,
I do know
who do. Who?
Mike Gann, who was a defensive end.
Oh, yeah.
And from 1985 to 1993, he wore that number for
And
the
didn't
Falcons.
tear his knee up or nothing?
Nope.
No,
okay.
no, he did it. And but he's probably the best one to wear that number.
Probably.
I looked at the rest and hadn't heard of it. Bill, what do you got?
Okay, I'll try to make this one somewhat quick. But
No, this is a great story.
Okay.
So to do it justice.
Okay, so Buffalo, they have the 17th-round draft choice is kicking specialist Sal Casola. But his brother John, he done a little kicking himself. Maybe he was a little bit jealous of his brother. When Kansas City coach Hank Stram phoned Sal at the Casala home to offer him a trial, he reached John, the brother, instead, who said, "I'm Sal." No problems can happen with that. But from the beginning,
it's like a Peter Brady episode.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, but they were saying almost from the beginning, players suspected something fishy. Sal would fail to answer to his name. He finally explained that he was baptized John Salvatore Casola. So there you go. He covered that. Then there was a teammate who had gone to the University of Cincinnati and had played against Sal in college. Casola could only contribute nothing to the fellow's reminiscence of the game. Strike 2. Who is this guy? Now, when Buffalo visited KC for an exhibition game, Casola warmed up as far away from the Bills as he decently could, but they saw him and wondered aloud, said Buffalo coach Lou Saban to Stram, what had he been feeding Casola? He must have gained 30 pounds since he left our camp. And then Buffalo kicker Boris Shipnick said, I don't know who that guy's kicking over there, but it isn't Sal Casola. Hank Stram was on fire. He said he came here because he seriously wanted to try out with the pro club. He had a strong leg and in time could have become a good kicker, but he'd have to work on his form. After their interview, Stram had a paycheck made out to John to take the place of several issued to Sal that John had feared cashing. Then 2 weeks later, along with several other marginal players, John was waived by KC under the name Sal Casola.
What a shyster, huh?
But if you think about it, Mark, if you had a brother and he said, "Oh, I'm great at baseball," and they called you and said, "Hey, come to the Tigers," would you think about it a little?
I have a doppelganger. It's a known true story.
Mark Hoffman?
No, my cousin one time was playing tennis at West Los Angeles College, and he saw a guy playing next to him, and he looked like me, and he said, "Hi, Mark." The guy just looked at him and said nothing. He said he looked identical to you.
You know that you've seen someone. You know how like people will go, "That guy looks like you" or something. And you're like,
Yeah.
Nah. I was at a cafe once, and Amanda goes, "There's someone behind you that looks just like you." And I turn around, I look, and it was like looking in a mirror.
Oh,
Really?
wow.
It was really weird.
Did you get a picture with him?
No, I don't do that.
And who was that jockey I forgot the jockey's name that yelled at me in the CBS thing because he said
DeSormo.
Kent DeSormo, man. He came out, Mark had him on a show, and I walk him out to the leave, and he goes, "It was good seeing you." And I said, "Good seeing you." He goes, "What's your problem?" I said,
I wish I
"Nothing."
could have been out there.
I go, "Nothing." He goes, "You haven't talked to me at all." And I said, "I don't know you." He goes, "You do know me." He was yelling at me in the hall, and I go, "I don't know you." He goes, What is your problem? Why are you doing this?" And I kept thinking, "I don't know you." Okay.
Mark, I think he has an ad.
Oh, you have an ad first,
Oh,
buddy?
yeah, I have an
Okay,
ad. You want to
go.
do They Said It first?
Whatever you want, bub.
Dick Sheridan of the Tigers after
What's his
strike-
last name?
Sharon, like a girl named Sharon.
Sharon, maybe.
See how
That's
important
Sharon.
a name is? Because Dick Sharon is much better than Sharon Dick.
Yeah. That you'll have to edit out. So Dick Sharon of the Tigers after striking out 3 times against Nolan Ryan. He's baseball's exorcist. Scares the devil out of you.
Yeah, that's a Mark Hoffman.
That
line
is
right
It
a lot,
there.
is.
too.
Anything to do with tigers or nudity, he's doing it.
Tito
That's it.
Fuentes, Giant second baseman, after being brushed back. "They shouldn't throw at me. I'm the father of 5 or 6 kids."
Yes.
The
Not
great
sure
part
how
about
many-
that quote is
Or. Yeah.
Well, no, that was the name of the kid, 5 or 6. What should we call him?
That's
I
very,
don't know.
very Sean Kemp like. Who's
I know. Sean
who's
Kemp,
the
I would have like
football
12.
player now that has like a dozen kids?
Oh,
Is it Tyreek Hill?
It might be.
But I think Tyreek Hill is engaged to someone right now and has I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But has like 13 children.
Well,
I know Philip Rivers has 10, but it's with the same woman. So
Does he have 10 now?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, he keeps having one every year, I guess.
Yeah. All right, you got your ad that we can make some money finally?
so the ad is great sports books. You won't want to miss it. You can get any 3 of these sports books for only $1. That's a pretty good deal, huh?
Yeah, well, it depends on the book.
Well, it's all sports books like Buckeye, the Woody Hayes thing, Billie Jean, Billie Jean King,
I
The
remember that
Iceman
one.
is hockey,
Yeah.
Wilt, The Gladiators about like football linemen, I guess. The Winning Edge of Don Shula. The one that stuck out, A Paper Lion, which was really good.
I'm
George
reading
Clinton.
that right now.
The one that stood out to me was Cosell, by Cosell. It was a book by him, and I remember having it, the paperback, as a kid. And the reason I remember it is I had it on the back of my bicycle as I was running. And something happened, and it fell off, and then a car ran over the book.
Oh,
And it split the book in half. So I had Cosell Part 1 and Cosell Part 2 that I could read from.
man, I devoured sports books as
When
a kid.
I was a kid, yeah. I did too.
Fiction, nonfiction.
me too.
When those things would come in the classroom, you know, like the scholastic
Yeah,
books,
yeah,
and it'd be
yeah.
like anything that was sports, you know, the
Like, yeah, I'm
all
doing
pro
that one, same with
team
me.
or any of
Yeah,
that
yeah,
stuff.
me too.
That was must get.
Well, I did send off, Mark, that Sports Illustrated for like $4.95 a year.
You haven't heard from them.
I haven't, not surprised.
Did you send the money?
No, it said pay later.
Oh,
so I
really?
put it there. I put it on there and said, please send me this. I love this magazine.
Stemming a red tide, Roland Mathis hadn't lost a race in 7 years. The East German was a 200-meter backstroke machine, but John Neighbor of the USA was about to put an end to that streak. We are becoming quickly swimming and diving
Yep.
Yes,
aficionados,
we are, man.
aren't
We're
we?
water sports people.
Yeah.
We should change the podcast to H2O.
Yeah. Not since April of '67 had Mathis lost a race, but he took it with grace. I'm very disappointed, he said, but a good athlete must learn to lose as well as to win, and tonight I am learning. Neighbor said, beating him is like finding out there is no Santa Claus. It's like waking from a dream. Then he added, it was fortunate for me that Roland was out of shape. So
Yeah.
it wasn't necessarily that he won. No, he did. He gets all the credit for winning.
Yep.
but maybe Roland wasn't at his best.
Well, when you win for 7 straight years,
Oh my
gosh!
gosh!
That's got to be
It's
tough.
going to end.
Yeah,
That's the thing about streaks; they end. All streaks.
They do. Yeah.
Not the streaking I do.
No,
Yeah.
Mark is still
They
doing
never end.
Yes.
But anyway, what I love about the swim meet was it was against the East Germans, which is so funny. So people that are too young enough to remember this, after World War II, Germany got divided into 2 parts, West Germany and East Germany.
Neighbor had quite a meet and quite a career.
Yeah.
It was the end of an era, Mathis passing of the torch, if you will, at the 76 games in Montreal. Neighbor won 5 medals, 4 of them gold. So one of the greatest swimmers of all time, dethroning one of the greatest swimmers of all time.
I thought about if we were having trouble getting a guest, reaching out to him. But I thought, how many more swimming things can we do?
I know, right?
You know?
A half of loafing is now undone. This is about the Pirates, who many picked to win the NL East and had basically just underperformed for the first half quite a bit. They were 14 games under 500 on June 7th when Richie Zisk asked about their recent turnaround. He had a really good reason as to why they were playing better. The difference between our team now and the one playing the first half of the season is that we lost more then and we win more now.
That's
that quote,
scientific.
that quote
Yes.
sounds great when we read it, but if you're the one holding the mic in front of him, you're like, come
Really?
on, you're better than that,
Right.
man.
Since that 14 games under 500, they're 32-13. Doc Ellis was 4-8 when the streak when they turned it around. Now he's 12-8. So the rookie tandem at shortstop. How about this? Frank Taveras and Mario Mendoza.
Well,
Is that the Mendoza line?
Yeah, that's
There
gotta
we
be
go.
changed. That's gotta
There
be
we
changed,
go.
but
Right,
yeah.
a fielder, Mario Mendoza, with more range, but not a great hitter. Right, the Mendoza line is considered to be someone who hits under 200. Mario actually hit 215 for his career, and from what I've read, did not like the fact that he was known for this negative.
I think it should have been Mark Belanger, the Belanger line.
Oh yeah, Mark
Yeah,
was
right,
not.
he was at
Mark was
180.
not a hitter either. That was back in the day when you could have a shortstop that hit
Yeah,
not much
exactly.
at all.
They weren't expected to hit in a lot of ways.
But as long as they fielded their
Yeah,
position,
yeah.
those days are long gone.
Yeah, the Pirates are lucky they were in the East because if they'd been in the West, they would have finished 14 games behind the Dodgers.
Right.
So,
Right.
and then they lost to the Dodgers in 4 games when they met in the NLCS.
I was just wondering, I was looking at Richie Zisk.
Yeah.
Because he's a main part of that article, and he had some really good seasons.
did.
And then they traded him to the White Sox, and they only got Rich Gossage and Terry Forster back. But I mean, but I'm saying Richie Zisk was a good player.
He was.
That was and he was only with the White Sox for a year.
Then he went to Texas.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Texas and ended with Seattle. I'm saying I thought for a team in Pittsburgh that had a lot of talent, he fit that perfectly.
Yeah.
With what.
Yeah. The team had a lot of offense.
It sure did.
Zisk, Parker,
Yeah,
Ed Oliver,
Yep.
Sanguian, and
yeah.
Rennie Stennett.
Rennie Stennett. Didn't he have go for 6 for 6 one game or something?
7 for
Or
7.
That's it. Yeah.
I just remember
Only
Mandy
player
Sanguian.
in Major League history to
Yeah.
have 7 hits in a 9-inning game.
That's it. Yeah. They had Bill Madlock.
The
yeah.
Pirates barely beat the Cubs that day. They beat them. They shut them out 22-0.
I wonder who was pitching
The
at the end
wind
of that
was
game.
blowing out only for Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
It was so
every time
weird.
they came up.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to college football. That is the main focus of this issue with Archie Griffin on the cover. Ohio State is preseason ranked number 1 back then. Keep in mind there are no playoffs at this time. They had split national championships the year before. Notre Dame and Alabama split it, and they would split it this year as well. They finally decided, you know what, we need a college football playoff system, and they implemented that the next season. Oh, no, they didn't. 40 years later. My bad. 40 years
They
later.
were getting around to
in
it.
2014, they did. And then this year, what are they doing? This year, it really explodes, doesn't it? Aren't there
Yeah, 12 teams.
12
isn't it?
teams in
Yeah.
the playoff this
Yeah.
year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And 9 from the SEC and 3 from other schools.
Wow.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
but Ohio State, Archie Griffin, the 74 is the first of his back-to-back Heismans.
That's right.
And he
Yeah.
played all 4 years, and they were definitely fair. And then Oklahoma was, considered they were on probation, but considered one of the best teams in the country, and I don't think they lost that year.
Wasn't that like
The
one
year
Switzer's
prior,
early years of there?
Yeah, it's kind of just ironic, isn't it, that he walks into a team on probation?
Yeah.
Kind of funny.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. In number 10, they have Texas, and Roosevelt Leaks is our running back, and he's hurt. So they have a freshman on the team, which some of you might have heard of. I think he turned out better than Leaks. Guy by the name of Earl Campbell.
Yep.
Campbell, I think, ran for like almost 1,000 yards.
But didn't it say Roosevelt Leaks was coming back from an injury? He came back quickly from an injury. Yeah, when you've got Earl Campbell
when you see that
there.
out there.
Yeah.
Campbell had a great NFL career.
He did.
I think the wear and tear.
He
got
took a beating
a little bit, but in his prime, oh my God, what a beast!
That they have always shown it. That shot where he hits Isaiah Robertson of the Rams, just like you see Robertson, because Earl Campbell's running right into him.
Yeah, Yeah, he could run around you, but when he had to, he would run through you. There was another running back, right, Mark, that was making his debut in
the
74.
13th ranked team in the country, Pitt. And they had a freshman running back you might have heard of named Tony Dorsett.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
And
he was my favorite player.
Yeah, I think he had 1,000-yard seasons every year because he could play all 4 years. And the Panthers had actually been 1-10 in 1972. In 73, they had a winning record, 6-4-1. And then, eventually they would be a national championship team with Tony Dorsett running the ball. And you know who's not in the top 20?
USC.
My alma mater, UCLA. Even though Dick Vermeil had just started his first of 2 years there, and he brought in the VR offense, they were 6-3-2 in 74, and then 9-2-1 in 75, and beat Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. So
they're also not in the top 20 right now.
Not yet.
No, not until they win their first 6 games this year. Yeah, UCLA's running the table. You can tape it right now.
Okay.
I don't know where they're running it to, but they're running it.
So Ohio State is preseason ranked 1. He's Woody Hayes, a phenomenal coach. But he's one of those guys in which 5 seconds flipped his legacy completely around. And in this case, it was the last 5 seconds of a 32-year coaching career that saw him win 5 national championships. But what happened, Mark, that forever tainted this incredible coach's legacy?
Well, it was a bowl game, and Ohio State was playing Clemson. And there was a play, and I think Woody Hayes didn't take exception to the way, I guess, the Clemson player hit his player or whatever. So he just took his forearm and slammed it against the guy's neck. And you're not supposed to do that even back then.
And career over.
Well, it was Schleister, right? Schleister threw an interception.
Right.
And I think the guy.
Oh, that's right. And he was running. I watched him live on TV. It was happening.
The game that ended the game, and Hayes just lost his mind and hits this poor, unsuspecting guy named Charlie Bauman.
That's it. Yep.
Well, but you have to understand Hayes' history. Okay, let's go way back to 1959. They lose 17-0 to USC, and Hayes throws a punch at a Los Angeles Examiner. That's when they had the Examiner sports writer Al Bine, but missed and punched the brother of a Pasadena Independent sports editor, Bob Schaefer, in the back instead. Prior to the 73 Rose Bowl, Hayes shoved a camera into the face of a news photographer. He got suspended for 3 games for that. In 77, a late fumble in Michigan caused him to charge at an ABC cameraman.
You did?
So, I mean, he was just...
I'm seeing a theme.
Yeah, he was just in a volcano, at some point in time.
So it almost feels like this boiling pot was due to explode.
It happens sometimes when you get empowered. When you're good at what you do, you believe the rules don't apply.
I thought this was funny. There was an article in there about the recruiting that goes on at all these schools, but they were focusing on Ohio State, and they called it the athletic committee. And they would go because Woody Hayes, couldn't go and get everyone, so they would have other guys go and represent the university. Mm-hmm. But they also had former athletes make calls to players. Men like Jack Tatum, Paul Warfield, John Havlicek, and Jack Nicklaus. Nicklaus once got on the phone with a prospect 40 minutes after winning the Masters.
Wow.
I mean, could you imagine? He's like, they're putting on the green jacket. He's got one arm in. He's like, hold on, I got to make a call here real quick.
Yeah.
That's nut.
And think of the kid that's taking that call.
Right?
You're like, you're joking. You wouldn't believe it's Jack Nicklaus.
It's crazy. Oklahoma was undefeated in 1973, but on probation in Barry Switzer's first year as the Sooners head coach. Notre Dame won it all in 73, and the team they beat was Bear Bryant's Alabama, always a threat. USC beat Ohio State in the Rose Bowl in 1974, but were destroyed by the Buckeyes in the end of the 73 season. Had a record of 9-2-1, and head coach John McKay has Anthony Davis back at running back, Pat Haden at quarterback, and his son JK McKay at receiver. And JK joins us now on the Past Our Prime podcast. JK, thanks so much for coming on our show to talk with us about this time.
Oh, I'm happy to do it. I think it's great you guys are doing this. It's hard to believe anything was 50 years ago, but this was.
You know, I say this to a lot of our guests because I can't decide which is worse, 50 years ago or half a century. Which do you prefer?
I think they're equally bad.
Yes. You know, you're the son of the head coach back then, and still. I'm sure that has its perks, but I'm sure it also had some downside to it. Give me the good and the bad of being the son of the head coach, John McKay at USC.
Oh, the good is that it kept it all in the family. So, you know, we had every game while I was at USC, my whole family was there, and it was a celebration mostly. For our family, it was fantastic. For me, it was great because of all the success we had and all the friends I had on the team. But it's a little bit awkward, you know, when your dad's the coach. It's like I always wondered, what am I supposed to call him? Sounds weird. If I call him coach, that sounds weird. If I call him dad, that sounds weird. So I honestly, he and I, and we talked about this later, we sort of stayed away from each other a little bit over those years.
Yeah, I think you'd call him, hey. Hey, you. You guys go into that season with big expectations, and right off the bat, you lose your opener at Arkansas. With such high hopes for the season and the possibility that it all went up in smoke right out of the gate, how disappointing was that, and how did you guys rebound?
It was really disappointing because we had, you know, the national championship in 72, 73. We were really good, although we lost in the Rose Bowl. But starting our senior year that way, I remember Pat Haden and I had a talk at some point early in that year, going, "This is not the way we wanted it to end." You know, it looked like it was going the wrong direction. We had a loss at the opener. We had some struggles. We had a tie against Cal, and then we finished in unbelievable fashion. I couldn't have asked for more. It made up for everything.
Yeah, so you opened the season against Arkansas, and I don't think anyone saw that 15-point loss coming. How much did that guy set you back, or was it just a thing, hey, it's the first game of the year, and if you're going to lose, better be the first game than something later in the season? No,
you make a good point. I think if you're going to lose, that's the one to lose, on the road, first game. But it did concern us, like how good are we, you know? Because we lost a lot of guys, and you just never know. You never know. And like I say, you get to the last three, and you go, they were the best times in my football life. And I think the same I could say for my dad, the UCLA win to send us to the Rose Bowl, the Notre Dame unbelievable comeback, and then the nail biter win at the Rose Bowl. So ending it couldn't have been any better, but it was a struggle for a little while.
But staying on that, after the Arkansas game, you outscored all the opponents 356-120. How much fun was it playing on that team with all those stars and yourself?
It was fun. We moved the ball at will. It seemed like we I think threw the ball better than SC had thrown the ball in a long time, and we were tough to stop, and it was a lot of fun.
And tell me about your relationship with Pat Haden. It just didn't start in college. I know you guys had a high school relationship. How important was that? And tell me about him and that relationship.
Well, he's been my best friend since we were freshmen in high school. It's funny, I've told this story before, but I was getting in some trouble in the 8th grade. I was going to a public middle school, and I didn't know Pat then. And my dad came home one day before I was going to start South Hills High School with my pals. And he took me to two schools. He took me to Bishop Amat and met Monsignor Kiefer. And he took me to the Military Institute and met the general that's in charge, or whoever it is. And he took me home. He said, "You decide. You're going to one or the other." Literally, that's what he said, and he left. And I decided I'm going to Bishop Amat. Which is where, on the first day of class and practice, I met Pat Haden. I was a quarterback all my life. I saw him throw the ball, and I said, "Okay, I'm a wide receiver." he could throw it.
Wow.
He wasn't very tall, too. What made him so successful? Because there was a lot of bugaboo that you have to be over 6 feet to be a quarterback.
I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know. He saw the field. And my dad used to say the toughest thing about evaluating quarterbacks is you don't know what it looks like to them, because that's what matters. How fast does it look like everybody's moving? What can you see? What can you anticipate? All that. And Pat was he was excellent at all that.
Yeah, they said the same thing about Montana. He didn't have all the skills that the scouts are looking for, but there's always a skill that the scout can't see that makes someone who they are, and that was especially true for or held true for Pat Haden at USC and then into the NFL as well.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I mean, you even look at Tom Brady and say, well, he doesn't, arm strength is questionable, or whatever. It's how do you play? What does it look like to you? And how do you play? So, and Pat was he was pretty amazing and really, really extra special under pressure.
And he's obviously a very smart man as well. What kind of leader was he?
Well, I was really his leader. Kidding. He was. I think he was an excellent leader because he did it by example. People wanted to follow. People wanted to hang out with. People wanted to get him to say, "Way to go," and he did. So I think he was excellent.
JK, you mentioned that you were maybe heading on the wrong path in 8th grade. Was there ever any talk prior to that you wouldn't be going to school with these hooligans? And your dad says, nope, pick between the military school and Bishop Amat. Like, did that come completely from out of the blue to you?
Out of the blue. He stayed home from work that day, which he never did. Wow. And he said, get in the car. I said, where are we going? He said, I'll tell you when we get there. But I didn't know anything. I sat with the Monsignor Kiefer, who later became, the head of my school there. And then he took me to the general, what's his name, that ran the military school. And it was sort of an easy pick because I knew a couple people at Bishop Amat, and I didn't want to go wear those military uniforms every day in high school. So it was sort of an easy pick, and it turned out the best thing that ever happened to me, really.
Right, it changed your life.
Mm-hmm.
It really did.
And Bishop Amat fielded some great football teams. I mean, and you were just a part of that.
They'd been good in the past, and they weren't great right at that time. And then we had something happened with the head coach there, Bill Cantwell, and he got fired. And they brought in a guy named Gary Marinovich of the Marinovich family. He was formerly worked with the Oakland Raiders, and we put in an offense at Bishop Amat that nobody had put in. We were throwing it 30 times a game.
Oh, wow.
It was usual for anybody to throw it 15 times a game back then. So we were way ahead of the scale there and won almost all our games while we were there.
It's interesting because USC has a reputation of being tailback U. And you had a tailback in Anthony Davis, who obviously the Notre Dame game. But aside from the Notre Dame, but before we get into that, just what kind of a running back was he? What kind of a teammate was he?
Anthony's a good guy. He's a good friend of mine, and he was special. And he kind of knew it. I mean, he did some amazing things, and people loved him. And he was a rock star at USC back then. I mean, and he sometimes walked across campus like a rock star, but he was a good guy and a heck of a player. Made some amazing runs, particularly kick returns.
Your dad was known for two things: being a college football Hall of Fame coach and his quotes.
Yeah.
He had those quotes. One of them I read was the team was down 17-0 at the half, and they came back and they win 20-17. And he said, "What do you tell them at halftime?" He said, "We need to score 18 points." and I think to that Notre Dame game, right? You're down 24-0 at the half. What did Coach say at the half? We need 25 because
For the record, it was 24-6. We scored a touchdown.
Right.
With about 2 seconds to go in the half to make it 24-6. We missed the extra point. And then, but he goes in, and I'll never forget it. He said, we're not playing very good, but we're a really good team. We're going to come back on these guys, but I need, somebody's got to make a play. We got to make a play. And we were getting the kickoff in the second half. And as he was walking out of the room, I was standing right next to the door. He walked right by me. And he said to the coaches around him, he goes, somebody should just tell him that there's no NCAA rule against blocking on kickoff returns. Kind of sarcastically said it. And I think one of the coaches did say something like that. And then, kickoff return, Anthony Davis brings it back for a touchdown. We scored 55 points in basically in one quarter.
I remember watching that game on TV. It was a Saturday of Thanksgiving weekend. And when you guys were down 24-0, it was like I was looking at my friends saying, oh, well, this game's over. And we stood and then watched that 55-point barrage. Have you ever seen anything like that at any form of football, whether it be college, high school, pros?
No, I really haven't, because that's Notre Dame was a top 5 team, somewhere in the top 5 in the country, and the number 1 ranked defense. We scored 8 touchdowns in about 16 minutes on the clock. It just, I don't think it's ever been done before or since.
So what did AD do, or even the team do? What changed? What all of a sudden just turned the tide of that game after the AD kickoff return for a touchdown?
Well, we started throwing the ball to me. That was
smartest move.
Smart.
I had 2 touchdowns. I had 2 other catches down to the 5-yard line that AD scored on the next play. So we scored quick, and defense got the ball back. Charlie Phillips had a pick 6. Yep. It was incredible how much offense we generated in a short period of time. And I don't think Notre Dame, they might have got 1 first down, but they didn't get a bunch.
I think once you get something going, it kind of snowballs. Yeah. And I think that, and it probably was a mental thing at some point for the defense. All of a sudden, we can't stop these guys, and I think you just got in their heads.
Yeah, we had kickoff return, we had a couple long passes, touchdowns. We had a pick 6 for about 70 yards. We scored quick, and I think they got shell shocked a little bit. I mean, obviously they did.
You talk. There's oftentimes when an individual player talks about being in a zone, but this sounds like the entire team was in a zone for about a 15, like you said, a 16-minute period where just like, you have all these high school All-Americans and great college players, and at one moment they all played to their best for an extended amount of time, and wow, look what happened.
Yeah, just a bunch of big plays. I know the last play in the third quarter, there's 2 seconds to go in the third quarter, and it was 3rd and 15. I was supposed to run a curl, try to get a first down. We were at about the 50. And this is where Pat and I, we both looked, and they had screwed up their coverage. They had one safety going this way, one going that way. There was nobody in the middle. So I ran, instead of running the curl, I ran a post. I ran right down, and Pat knew I was going to do it and threw it to me. We get an easy 50-yard touchdown. Just because we both looked at it and went, I'm not going to run a curl. I'm going for the touchdown.
How much were the plays scripted, or how much did you guys sometimes veer off from your dad and say, oh, we'll run this play? Or did your dad give players freedom or not?
He gave Pat some freedom, but we didn't veer off a lot from him. You knew my dad. You didn't want to veer off too much with him. Now, you might, when he calls a run, you might say, no, let's try this. And a lot of times he'd say, okay, let's go with that.
Yeah, next thing you know, you're at a military school.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, there's the sergeant again.
Now, exactly.
Hey, JK, you guys are tied, I believe, at the half of the 74 Rose Bowl. Thanks in large part to you against Ohio State. You had a nice first half there. Second half, Ohio State kind of blitzes you. You get a chance to redeem yourself in the 1975 Rose Bowl, played on January 1st, 1975. This time you guys come up smelling roses. How sweet was that to not only win, you win in dramatic fashion, and you get a chance at beating the team that kind of knocked you out the year before?
And I think they were ranked number 1 at the time. Yeah, it was great. We ended up winning, we won 2 out of 3 against Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. We won 2 out of 3 against Notre Dame. And the interesting thing in the Notre Dame series of 3, because we didn't play 4 because we were freshmen, we weren't eligible back then. We played 3, but every year the winner of that game won the national championship.
Oh, wow.
72-4 we won, and 73 they won.
That's right.
And then Ohio State was really good all those years. We beat them twice; they beat us once. So it was amazing. It was I got to catch it was a dream come true. Catch a long corner pattern in the corner of the end zone. I mean, then we go for 2 and we get it. That corner of the end zone, what's amazing about that, I've been going to the Rose Bowl since I was a little kid with my dad. Since the first time was 1962. And every time I ever went there, I went to that corner of that end zone because it's so close to the stands. And I thought, God, wouldn't it be cool to score a touchdown here or catch a pass here? And I even thought about it ahead of time. I think I'm the first guy to actually do the Lambeau leap. I had to dive into the stands because otherwise you're just going to hit the wall. But I thought about that when I was a little kid. It's amazing.
So go into details. You're down 17-10 to Ohio State. There's less than 3 minutes to go in the game. And how was the play drawn up to you?
It's called 64X corner. I'm X. So I'm going to run a corner. And I didn't think, frankly, the reason, if you watch the play, Pat had the ball for a long time. He got great protection. When you run a corner, you run to the post, and then you break back to the corner. Well, usually you will go 3 steps to the post and then back to the corner because you got to get quarterback's got to throw it. I went 5 steps because I couldn't get the guy to come with me. And finally he came with me, and luckily Pat had all this protection, and he just threw it a strike right in the corner of the end zone. It couldn't have been more perfect. And then of course we got to go for 2. Like people wondered, is my dad going to go for 2? And the answer is yes, every time. And so we go for 2 and we get it.
And where was your vantage point when Diggs caught the 2-point conversion? Where were you on the?
I was wide open. I told Pat this all the time. You just didn't want me to be the hero, didn't you? I was wide open.
Thanks.
I kind of broke my pattern off. I was actually right behind Shelton Diggs, wide open. Shelton made a great catch. And then, I mean, it was so cool. And to end my career at USC and at the Rose Bowl like that, it's literally a dream come true. It's unbelievable. And after the game, I'll never forget, with all our friends, we went to visit a guy whose family lives right near there because we want to watch the game between who was it? Notre Dame and Alabama. Because if Notre Dame beat Alabama, we win the national championship. So we go up there with a friend of mine's house named Greg Brakovich. He's a great guy. And all of our friends, a lot of players, all of our friends, families. There was, I don't know how many people there. We're watching, and we watched and Notre Dame beat Alabama, and we knew then we're national champions.
So now,
so cool.
Oklahoma gets the AP #1, but you guys get the coaches poll, right? And that year,
I guess that's right. I've forgotten that actually.
I guess when you split it,
it says national champions.
That's all that matters.
That's good.
Right. That's all that counts because you are national champions.
Yeah,
you know?
They were still on probation.
Now Sports Illustrated in this preview issue has Ohio State 1, has Oklahoma 2, and has you guys 5. But I guess, that's splitting hairs when you're talking about the top 5 teams in college football because literally one play makes a difference.
Lucky in a way, the last couple of weeks, we beat Notre Dame, so they're out.
Yeah.
Right.
And beat Ohio State, so they're out.
Right.
Notre Dame beats Alabama, so they're out. So everybody kind of got eliminated in front of us.
Right. I was going to say, you actually go into the Rose Bowl ranked number 5.
Everybody ahead of us lost.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But you needed some help, and back then there's no playoff, so now your arch rival Notre Dame needs to beat Alabama for you guys to have a shot at the national championship.
Well, I mean, I've said this before with Notre Dame, in my family at least, with my dad. We love Notre Dame. We want them to beat everybody, particularly in that case. But we always, the whole life, we wanted Notre Dame to win, except when they played us. We wanted to beat them, but we wanted them to be good. And my dad, he was a kid from West Virginia. He grew up a Notre Dame fan. And I once told Ara Parseghian when I was getting recruited there that if I didn't go to SC, I'd go to Notre Dame.
Oh, wow.
But because he said to me, I was in the room with him, and he goes, JK, he said, I think you're going to SC, but if you don't, I want you to come to Notre Dame. I said, Coach, I will. Because I wasn't sure at that point whether I wanted to be a coach's kid.
Yeah. We're talking with the 1975 co-MVP of the Rose Bowl, JK McKay. And JK, in 1998, you get inducted into the Rose Bowl Hall of Fame. No disrespect to any of the other major bowl games, but there is still nothing like the Rose Bowl, is there?
No, it's it's a dream come true for a little kid that walked those sidelines at 9 years old, and to have it end with being inducted into the Rose Bowl Hall of Fame. It's literally, I was in tears that day. I'm almost in tears thinking about it.
So after your college career is over, I think you initially go to the Southern California Sun, right, of the World Football League.
That's right. Yes.
And what was that experience like? Just that league and playing Southern California Sun.
It was kind of strange for a bunch of reasons, the way it ended, and the coach was Tom Fears, and it was. I was playing wide receiver on a team that wanted to run the ball 40 times a game, and Pat Haden was on the team, but he had been awarded a Rhodes Scholarship, so he left. He was starting quarterback, and he left about, I don't know, halfway through the season or a little more, and to go to England for the Rhodes Scholarship. So it was kind of strange, and then it all went under.
But then you go to Tampa Bay and you play for your dad again. What was the difference when you played for him in college as playing for him in the pros?
Well, in the pros, we started off. He was given a team with no good players, with only players that other teams didn't want, including myself. His quarterback was Steve Spurrier. So we lose 26 games. 0-14 in the first year. We're 0-12. And then we finally get a win. And we're coming home. It was on the road at New Orleans. And we're coming home. And when we land, there's a massive parade in Tampa. They do this parade. Every person in Tampa was out. They were going crazy. And the next week, and that team that we beat was coached by a good friend of my dad's, Hank Stram. And Hank got fired after the game for losing to us.
Oh, man.
On the last game of the year, we come home and we beat St. Louis Cardinals in Tampa. And that team is coached by Don Coryell, also a good friend of my dad's. And he gets fired after the game. That's saying I can't afford to win anymore.
Oh my! But what's funny is that Tampa Bay team was so bad over the years. I mean, you're used to so much success at SC, but then I think you leave after the '78 season, and in '79 they actually go to the NFC Championship game.
Actually, I was still on the team. I was on the injury reserve. I broke my hand. I was hoping to be able to come back from it, but I really couldn't. But I was on the team in '79. Okay. I was at every game, but I was on injured reserve.
Like we mentioned earlier, your dad was always one for a great quote, and I think after breaking the 26 game losing streak, he said something to the effect of 4 or 5 plane crashes and we're a playoff team.
Some people got mad at him for that.
I was going to say that's a little dark humor, but boy, that's it's funny as hell.
Did he use that humor with you growing up at any time, or was it more just a strict disciplinarian?
No, he was always funny. He was a larger, truly. I mean, and I say this with pride. He was a larger than life person. He was. Whenever he came into a room back then, it was everybody turned and looked. It was like, he's here, and he always had something funny to say. I was with him at a party, not a party. It was a wake after in 1966 he lost to Notre Dame, 51-0.
Oh.
And it was like the worst game it was in the Coliseum. It was unbelievable. And I know one thing he said to this group of people. He said that the game was a lot closer than the score might indicate.
But tell me, for a guy that had so much success in college, how tough was it on your dad to have a 26 game losing streak when he gets to the NFL?
Oh, it was horrific. I mean, he was brokenhearted, and I'm just so glad, frankly, that it ended the way it did. He turned it around and got in the playoffs and got to the NFC Championship game in 79, I guess it was.
Yeah.
I'm glad he turned it around, but the rules back then were ridiculous. There were no such thing as free agents, so there weren't any, and you didn't get anybody from a team. They got to protect, 40 or 45, whatever it is, and then you got to pick from the guys they didn't want to protect, and that was it. It was because there's no free agents.
Yeah.
So what he did is when he and he's one of the first guys to do it. He's the first guy at a major college that I'm aware of that scholarship and started a black quarterback, Jimmy Jones. And then in the NFL, one of the first guys to draft in the first round, a black quarterback, Doug Williams. And when Doug got to Tampa in '78, everything changed. We were competitive. In '78, I think we won 5 or 6 games, but and then in '79, they're off and running. But that was largely Doug.
Yeah, and then they end up losing him. What is it, to free agency? Because they probably would have kept getting higher with Doug Williams as the quarterback. That had to hurt your dad as well.
He was really good, and he and my dad had a really good relationship.
So I understand now that you still have ties to SC and you're involved in the NIL program. Is it House of Victory?
Yes, I've just been invited to be part of it, and I'm interested in it for a lot of reasons, but mostly because I want to see, I want to see SC do it right. I want to see SC be competitive. I don't think you can be competitive in college football unless you're in that space doing it the right way. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, I don't. There's things about it I wonder about, but I think it's the world we live in. So either going to compete in it or not.
Right.
I mean, could you have seen that ever working in the '70s, or that your dad and you and the players ever have to deal with that back then?
No, I never thought it would come to this. Although I will say I did think, and maybe this is what happens down the road, is that you could consider these student athletes, which is what they are first, also employees of the university. And I think it could be headed in that direction. I don't know. I'm just getting involved a little bit now, and the people I'm dealing with are trying to do it the right way. But you want to be competitive too.
Isn't your son part of the committee as well? And how proud of your son are you for being part of it?
I think he's done a fantastic job. He got in there right at the beginning and started just building it, and then his group was asked to merge with the other group, which is the right thing. There's one group now. It's SC supporting it. Jen Cohen and SC are supporting it. Lincoln Riley is supporting it. So they're doing it the right way. But it's a strange world because the rules seem like could change at any moment. It's going to take a while to see where this thing ends up.
And how excited are you to see USC join the Big Ten?
I have a hard time with it still because when they talk about USC's in the Big Ten, it's like, what? How did that happen? But
first of all,
I think
it's not
great.
the Big Ten.
I see why they did it from a financial standpoint, obviously. They're going to be playing against one of the toughest schedules in all of football, but they're going to, they'll compete. They got a chance. I like a lot of things they're doing, and it'll be interesting to see in year one how that goes.
We're going to end up with basically 3 conferences, basically.
That's right.
We're going to have an SEC conference.
I think that's where you're headed. I think you're right.
I'm not sure I'm on board, but maybe I better because it's not changing.
But remember, we used to love that because when you're talking about Ohio State and USC, that's how they won the title.
Right.
Now being in the same conference, to me, doesn't have the same sort of,
But
thump.
I'm a get off your lawn, my lawn
that's
kind of
what happens
guy.
being
So what can you do?
We do a trivia segment on the show. It's called 50-50. I'm going to give you a 50% chance to answer a trivia question. And this is going to go back, a true or false question. There was a movie made in the 70s, 1976, called 2 Minute Warning. It's about a sniper at a Super Bowl type game. It's not called the Super Bowl, but they shot it at the Coliseum. So true or false, they did not use NFL footage for this game. They actually used a USC football game covering for the, quote, professional Super Bowl type game.
That's true.
You are correct.
I did not know.
Do you know what game they showed that they pretended was the Super Bowl?
I remember it, but I don't remember. I don't remember.
It was a USC Stanford game that was played in 1975 because they wanted a game that was played at the Coliseum because they were shooting at the Coliseum.
Sure.
Charlton Heston was the lead, and
Probably
say that about Charlton Heston. He was kind of a friend of my dad's. Maybe it was because of that, because he was there a couple times.
Is that right?
Oh, Charlton Heston did a football movie back in 1967. I think it was called Number One. And this is a science fiction movie because they had the New Orleans Saints as Super Bowl champs. He was the quarterback of the New Orleans Saints, and they were the Super Bowl champs. And when they used real footage, it was Billy Kilmer when he was with the Saints playing. But anyway, you got the 2 minute warning question right.
Yeah, you knew we sometimes You just know, and you knew for sure.
Do I get any money for getting that right?
Yes,
Yes.
you do.
Mark's gonna take you to lunch. That's good and bad.
And the Palisades. We'll go be in the Palisades.
And he'll get to pay.
As long as you're buying.
That's exactly right. Make
You
sure,
got it.
JK, that
That'd be
he
a
pulls his
first.
wallet out.
Hey, hey, JK, you mentioned that it came down to SC and Notre Dame, and I want to just kind of know, what was the recruiting process like for your father to convince you to come to SC? He has a famous quote, once again, where he said, "I had a rather distinct advantage. I slept with his mother," which I'm sure had to go a long way with you as a teenager. But
we got, we had some kind of amazing numbers out of high school, so we got recruited literally by everybody. And when some coaches from nowhere state would come over to see us, because Pat was living at my house back then. My dad wouldn't be home, but if a coach from a big school like Ohio State or Notre Dame or pick one came over, my dad was always home. And then it really came down to, because we were kind of Irish Catholic kids and gone to Catholic school, and came down to SC and Notre Dame. And my dad heard we were seriously thinking about Notre Dame, which we were. I mean, if we hadn't gone to SC, I think that's where we would have gone. But he called me in without Pat, and he said, "John," he said, "I got a lot of wide receivers, but I need the quarterback." I said, "Okay, Dad, we'll announce for SC tomorrow."
I don't need you. Just make sure Pat comes.
At least he's honest.
Very good. Hey, JK, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Getting to know you and
Yes.
talking about your dad, and you're right, a fairy tale ending for a kid that was playing around in the corner of the end zone, that then ends up making the catch in that corner of that end zone. It couldn't have ended any better. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, guys. I love what you're doing. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but you'll like it if you can. Let's see.
Okay.
Let's see something somebody gave me the other day.
What is it?
Is that you?
What is
Oh,
it?
that's you in the corner.
Oh, my God.
Oh, wow.
It's like is it a mannequin or just a
It's a poster. It's a flat poster.
I've got the same picture here, but this friend of mine had this made and brought it over one day, and it's really kind of cool.
Oh, that is
Kind
so
of
cool.
cool.
A catch I made against UCLA that senior year,
Wow.
3rd and 17 from the 17-yard line, and Pat threw it behind me, and I reached back and caught it with one of his best catch I ever made. And interestingly, about every couple of months, I take a picture of it and I send it to Pat, and I go, "Nice throw."
That's
Oh, my God.
And now you've got it blown up on your wall.
Yes.
Perfect.
Hey, I'm just saying, you get to relive that play every day. One of the greatest memories ever, and it's right there.
It is. It is pretty cool. I've had people over here, and I'll bring them always over here and go, "Pretty good catch, huh?" And they go,
Yes.
"Wait, you caught that?"
Yeah.
Dang.
And to make it even better, it gives you the ability to talk crap to your best friend.
It does.
Absolutely. Nice throw, Pat.
Now I got a question. Okay, so you told your dad it was between Notre Dame and USC. Had you told your dad it was between USC and UCLA, would he have been more upset? Would he have said, "Absolutely not"?
Yes, he would have said, "Absolutely not."
Mark, where'd you go to college?
More hated than Notre Dame. Okay, just want to make sure.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
From a
And
UCLA guy.
Pat was easy to persuade. Once I told him that my dad wanted him more than me, he said, "Okay, we're in."
That's awesome. JK, thank you so much.
Thank you
Enjoy
very
your
much.
day.
All right,
Thank
guys,
you.
I love
All right.
what you're doing. If I can help in any way, let me know.
Thank you.
We'll reach out.
Appreciate
Thank you
that.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
So
Yeah,
there
that
you
is
go. There's
so
the
cool.
74
That is so
national
cool.
champion, JK McKay, son of the legendary John McKay. You
Yeah.
know, there's sometimes when you'd be in the shadow of something like that,
Yeah.
and you might want to try to back off from it a little bit. He's embracing it. He
Right.
knows what his dad was. He knows he was a legend. And John McKay's been gone now for like 23 years or something like that. And I'm sure, I know that when people ask me about my dad, who's been gone for a long time, I love to talk about it. And you could just see every time I'd throw in a quote or we'd bring up John, that he was like, yeah, that was my dad. You know?
But I'm saying with a guy that successful, you said it, Scott, a lot of times you try to push back. Like when you say your dad, they go, "Yeah, he was a good coach." No, man, he had story after story, and whenever you told him one of the quotes, he'd laugh about it and go, he did say that.
Right,
he
right.
seemed like the life of a party type guy.
Yeah.
Like he was a great coach, but when you went into the party, he had some quote.
Yeah.
Well, I hope JK brings that cardboard cutout of him, when I have to treat him to lunch,
Would you take a picture with a USC poster?
Yes, and then we could get a table for 3,
There we go.
And we
Two
sit there.
JKs
Yes,
and
as
one.
long
We'll go to that.
As long as the poster's in between the two of you.
Yes.
Ranked 20th in the preseason is Frank Cush's ASU Sun Devils. Boy, he was a tough SOB. Matched against Bobby Riggs, the tennis player, in an exhibition match, Cush said, "If that guy tries anything funny, I'll knock him silly."
Works, I guess.
Yeah. One guy who might see some action for Arizona State is Bruce Hardy, who was on the cover of the April 29th issue of SI. Bill is still waiting to hear back from him to see if he's interested in coming on to the show. So, Bill,
Yes.
get back to us when Bruce does.
I sent
okay?
that letter to him. I'm sure he's still contemplating.
Don Strock is walking from
Yes,
his home
to
in
his home,
Florida
yes.
to your place.
Yes, he is.
In Santa Clarita.
Yes, he is. They're both waiting. They both got my letters. They're considering it.
Some great small school players also in 1974, right, Mark?
Yeah, well, I like Abilene Christian, which I think is still a powerhouse, like in the smaller football. They had a running back who had a pretty successful NFL career named Wilbert Montgomery
Yeah, I
for
loved
the
him.
Eagles, and I have very fond memories, well, not so fond memories, of him beating the Cowboys. Montgomery was a beast.
Yeah.
Lou Russo was a receiver.
I think it was that NFC Championship game where the Eagles ended up playing, then losing to the Raiders in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he had Harold Carmichael, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another small school had a pretty good running back by the name of Walter Payton.
Oh, Jackson.
Led the NCAA Smalls in scoring last season. This is how great a player he was. He had 24 touchdowns, 13 extra points, and one 25-yard field goal.
And couldn't he throw, too?
He could throw. Remember
Yeah,
in the NFL,
yeah.
he threw more than one touchdown pass.
Damn.
Sweetness could do it all. An All-American player. He averaged 104 yards per game. And the thing is, as Bob Thomas told us, maybe his best attribute was he was just a great teammate. So
Do you know it's funny looking up when we do the football things and we talk to guys from the past? I a lot of times look up box scores, and I see Bob Thomas a lot, and I always get a smile on my face. Like Bob Thomas 30-yard field goal. I think I like that guy. We had him.
Yeah, it's funny how a guy whom would never cross your radar will now forever cross.
It jumps right out when I see him.
Yeah. The people section. This is a great story about Eddie Sutton.
Yep.
Isn't it?
I love this story.
Eddie Sutton left Creighton University to become the new hoops coach at Arkansas. His family stayed behind in Omaha so that the children could finish school there. In the absence of father, who was busy recruiting and getting his program established, one of Sutton's young sons started slipping into his mother's bed at night. Sutton consulted his old college psychology texts and on one of his visits home advised the youngster that, though he might be lonesome and a bit afraid, the practice would have to stop. Well, Sutton finally got settled in Fayetteville, and on the first day of his summer basketball clinic, his wife arrived from Omaha with the brood. In fact, Sutton was standing in front of the field house talking with about 10 high school coaches when Sean, his youngest son, yelled out the car window, "Hey, Dad, nobody slept with Mother while you were gone." Kids are awesome. Kids are awesome.
That's funny.
What about Gary Player, Bill?
Oh, he was a teetotaler. At a tournament, he asked for a glass of water during practice for the Hartford Open. And then something weird happened. An attendant mistakenly handed him a gin and tonic. Player threw it down in one gulp, and then he got drunk immediately. Oh, yeah. Absolutely drunk. Player swears, "I couldn't see. My mouth wouldn't work right. I couldn't hit a practice ball or putt. I went home and slept until 5:45. When you don't drink, it hits you that way. Tournament began. Player still seemed thoroughly under the influence. He finished in a tie for 50 seconds.
Oh, my gosh.
I almost used the voice with the edger.
Right. Where'd he get a beer
Right here. Because it's amazing. When you do get drunk, your voice goes into some weird deep, like,
I don't think mine does or yours does.
No, it doesn't.
Just everyone else's.
Yes. Yes.
Next up, Season of Pride and Tension. We'll probably
Mark.
edit this out because nobody cares about this, right,
Al
Bill?
Kaline, who is he?
I've never heard.
never
Al
did anything
Kaline
good.
is the poor man's version of Stan Musial.
Yes.
Hey.
All right?
Hey.
Yes.
Don't
Very
be
Yes.
poor.
Yes. Thanks to Angie.
Al Kaline's career, thankfully, why would they put thankfully, is coming to an end.
Yeah.
When he was 20, he hit 340. He would never be that good again. Known as Mr. Tiger, only 11 players have ever gotten to 3,000 hits. None in the American League since 1925.
Damn.
Kaline's just 22 hits shy of the magic number. He wouldn't get it. He'd finish with 2,998.
Yep. And just walk off the field and say, I'm done. Yeah.
Wait, so he did something. Maybe it was his 300th home run. He did something right at the end of the season.
He quit.
No, it was in Boston. It was in Fenway. He
had a
did.
beard?
Yeah, at Fenway Park. He was at the home.
I know it wasn't
where he
in
had-
Baltimore.
It
He
was
got
on
the
a Monday night.
3,000th hit.
This is really good preparation.
It is.
Oh, it
It's
is.
good
He
stuff.
did
No,
something.
Good
he
job,
finished
Mark.
with
I'm pretty
300.
sure he did something.
No, he
Did he?
finished
Shot.
with 399 homers. That's what it was. He was one shot of.
See, like,
of
if you don't
four.
get
That Dale
400,
Murphy?
you can't be in the hall without 400.
Yeah. Dale Murphy.
He did have 3,007 hits. So.
Well, half of them were singles.
Right. Yeah. He got 3,000 in late September, finishing his Hall of Fame career with 3,007. Now, so when did he start, Mark? He started in 1960? Is that right?
No, he was in the 50s. He
55,
was,
Oh, in the
he was
50s.
18 years old when he was starting for the Tigers.
Oh,
So what was he like when you met him with Rory?
We had an opportunity. Bill and I were in Detroit in 2009, and our friend Rory Marcus, who was the voice of the Angels, was up in the broadcast booth, and he had passes for us to go up there, and he said, "Come on up. We're eating with Al Kaline." And of course, I didn't go up. I missed my opportunity.
wanna go.
I think I heard that after the fact. I don't
We
think I
met
heard
Mark
that
Gubas,
before.
but we didn't meet.
I met Al Kaline. Good guy.
Yeah, you had dinner with him, didn't
Yeah,
you?
with Rory.
Yeah, that's right. You were invited
I-
to. He said, Mark sure won't go. Do you want to go?
V for victory, as in Vilas. Guillermo Vilas was coming on strong as a 22-year-old Argentinian, and he was dominating the summer, winning 4 Grand Slam titles, the 77 French Open and the 77 U.S. Open and the 78 and 79 Australian Open, considered one of the greatest players ever on clay. He didn't quite reach the top of the sport for as long as they thought he'd be, but he was a dominant player on the clay surface.
I thought he won 672 matches on clay, which is an all-time record, and then only 1 French Open. But Rafael Nadal is third with 474 wins on clay, but he won 14 French
Yeah.
Opens. I mean, it's just amazing because when you look at the wins on it, you go, wow. But you
Yeah.
look at the majors and you go,
Now, back
what happened?
then,
Yeah.
more tournaments were played
Yes,
on
on
clay
clay.
than they
Yes,
are now.
yes.
So Nadal, there's just not that long of a
No.
season for him anymore. But
And Nadal
I mean-
saved up for those French.
Oh,
he,
he
he
sure
would
would.
work
Yes,
a schedule
yes.
to where he was there. And in those
14.
days, they played all the
oh
tournaments.
my gosh, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
But what I remember about Guillermo Vilas, this is a story I've told before. The first thing I ever logged was when he played. So it was Guillermo Vilas against Vitas Gerulaitis. Now you
God,
try
yeah.
saying that 10 times.
Yeah.
But not only that, but it was a 5-set match. One of them was up 2-zip, and the other one came back and won the next 3 sets. So I was watching
probably
like
the US
4
Open.
or 5 hours of tennis.
Sounds like a good match, Mark. A case of setting them up for the kill. World Amateur Boxing Championships held in Havana, Cuba. The only thing I liked about this, since Sugar Ray wasn't there, so the U.S. didn't send necessarily their strongest contingency. Now, Sugar Ray was still just a kid back then. But I saw that there was a guy named Marvin Stinson, heavyweight fighter, taking on Cuba's best, 220-pound Teofilo Stevenson, who we've talked about on the show, an all-time great heavyweight. By the time Stinson got in the ring, he had lost 7 pounds during the week and weighed 36 pounds less than the Cuban champ. Could you imagine 220 versus 184? It's a mismatch. It's a huge guy versus a not so big guy. So at 184 pounds, he lost by decision, but that's just a crazy mismatch. For the record, Bill.
Well, the wandering John Matuszek played for the Oilers early in the week, but it did not help. Atlanta lost. Atlanta beat Houston 10-6. But John Matuszek decided to show up and play against New York last week wearing a Texan uniform and insisting he had found a loophole in his contract to jump from the NFL to the WFL. But it did not sit well with Oiler owner Bud Adams or coach, who's that guy again? Sid Gilman. Matuszek appeared in the first 5 plays, but then was forced to the bench when he was served with a restraining order on the sidelines. Adams followed that with a suit against Matuszek, and the player's lawyer countered by subpoenaing Adams, all the Oiler players, and the entire coaching staff to appear at a hearing.
Wow.
Dang. Man, John Matuszek, I watched him. You probably have a little more on him. Is he sort of a out there type guy?
Oh,
Scott?
God, yeah. The
He had
twos.
long hair.
I know he played in the Goonies, you would say.
Yeah.
So
No, he was way out there.
yeah.
And another steroid victim.
Yeah, and I think a great college player. He might have been the number 1 overall draft pick.
Yeah.
I think he was. But had a good NFL career, but not one that you would think would be the number 1 overall.
And then the last one with soccer star Pele.
Yeah.
Pele was retiring in the first week of October. He had already quit the Brazilian national team a couple years ago, but he said he's done. And then he signed with the Cosmos in 1975.
Yeah, money.
They're never done, man. They're never. We see so many of
Money
these
talks,
retirements.
right? Faces in the crowd. What do you guys got?
Well, Roy Hamilton, at 17 at the time, selected from 6,000 athletes as the outstanding performer in the 7th annual Watts Summer Game in Los Angeles. He's entering his senior year at Verbum High. He led his team in scoring and assists as it took the championship. So, Verbum produced some great high school basketball teams in Los Angeles. And Roy was on the team with David Greenwood, and then they both ended up playing at UCLA. And then he got drafted by the Pistons, but the Pistons back then were really bad, so it didn't help his career. But Roy then had a very successful career in TV media. I first met him in the early 80s at CBS, and he worked for Fox, he worked for CBS, he worked for ESPN. He's just done really well for himself. But Roy also is the reason why I got my first job on the air in Bakersfield, doing weekend sports in Bakersfield. Buddy Singer, sports producer, had heard from a friend of his they were looking for a weekend person at this ABC affiliate in Bakersfield. But he didn't know me at the time, so I went to Roy, and Roy was doing color for UCLA basketball at the time. He couldn't do it. Roy told me about it. I applied for it. He got the job. So that's how I got my first job.
And now he won't return your calls.
Yeah.
What'd you do?
He won't return. Yeah.
He's a nice guy. He'll return my call.
I think.
Mark, Billy, what do you got?
I got Brian Haas.
What?
He, some people would call him Moose Haas.
Oh, I know Moose Haas.
He had said he ended his prep career with a 7-0 record and an ERA of 0. But he did. Then he won 100 games with the Brewers and A's, and once held the Brewers record for strikeouts in a game with 14. Struck out Reggie Jackson 4 times in that game. And there you go.
Yeah, had a nice major league career.
He did.
So if he had a 0 ERA, how many runs did he give up?
Well,
runs, we don't know. Earned runs, 0.
Yes.
No, I meant earned runs. I'm really bad at math.
You are bad at math. I thought you went to UCLA.
I did.
19th hole, Billy.
Oh, just, it's easy to look back and have 20/20 vision when you read these things. But a guy was saying, how can you call Dwight Evans the best right fielder in the league? Charlie Spikes of Cleveland has more home runs, more runs batted in, and has developed into a steady 290 hitter. Also, his fielding and running ability put him on par, if not above, Evans. So I just thought I'd look up the stats. Charlie Spikes, well, there's 65. He had no gold gloves. He played 9 years, hit 246. Dwight Evans had 8 gold gloves, finished with 385 home runs, and hit 272. And he played 20 years. Yeah. But I'm saying it's always easy to look back now. But at that time, whatever it was, Al Navalonic looked at that and thought, Charlie Spikes is my boy.
Yeah.
It's my guy. Sometimes you look back and think, wow, it's not the way it is.
No. Well, I'll tell you what, JK McKay, he was our boy today. He was a great guest going back and talking about that great 1974 USC team that culminated with a Rose Bowl win on January 1st, 1975 over Ohio State. And USC wins a national title with his dad, head coach, whatever he wants to call him, John McKay, leading the way. So That was great talking to JK. Finally, Mark, we got a Trojan in
Yeah,
here.
we finally did.
Right?
Good job.
Even though I'm a Bruin, we have to be fair.
Yeah,
And
so
we need-
5-1. That's Mark's
Yep,
Mark's
yep.
version
No,
of fair.
no, I'm gonna
So
get
five
I'm gonna
more
get
USC
up to
guys.
about 7-5 at some point.
All right. That works for me. So, that it. You guys got anything else to say?
No, I'm gonna go watch some
No.
college football.
Yep.
Good. College football starting up. I'm Scott Johnston. That's Bill Mahoney. That's Mark Hoffman. No A's hat this week, but that's Jeremy.
Not even a baseball.
No.
Got a Nike swoosh on.
Royals
just
the last
do it.
time. Yeah, just do it.
We're past our prime. See you guys.